Welcome, everybody, to the podcast that is called Combo Sports Talk. This is the, eighth episode of Combo Sports Talk. This show, Combo Sports Talk, is co-hosted by Shawn, Davisson, and Dustin Tran. The guy that is speaking right now is Dustin Tran. Before you do anything else, though, please subscribe to this YouTube channel called Combo Sports Talk. Thank you guys for being patient. There will also be the podcast version of Combo Sports Talk that will be released via Anchor. Anchor distributes the Combo Sports Talk podcast into many podcast apps, particularly Apple and Spotify. Remember to follow our Instagram and Twitter. Instagram is called @combo.sports.talk, while our Twitter is called @combo-sports-talk. No dots or anything like that. Those pages will show quotes, rankings, previews, short clips of what happened in our episodes. The show Combo Sports Talk focuses on debate, discussion, and comedy topics that are based around football and basketball mostly. You guys did a great job supporting us, so continue to go ahead and go do that. It will help the show and the podcast grow even more. Shawn, it's been a while. It's been quite a while since we've done this, but you ready to go?
Yeah, man, it's exciting to be back. We'll speak more on that a little later, but we're starting to get into football season. You're gonna really see how much we like talking about football because maybe it might be a little more than basketball. You'll kind of see that, but we're excited to talk about football. Obviously, basketball is going to be a big priority with free agency and summer league happening and stuff like that. But football is kicking off and it's getting really exciting.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. And there's a lot to get to today's show, both the NBA, college football, NFL, whatever you want to name it. Look, what we're going to be talking today is going to be the Lakers make moves. We're going to be reacting to that. Then we're going to be talking about the Bulls offseason. We're going to be talking about what happened to them. Then we're going to be talking about Kawhi Leonard, we signed with the Clippers. And then we're going to be doing a segment, we did this last episode. It's going to be called Start, Bench, Cut for NFL running backs instead of NFL quarterbacks this time. And then we're going to be talking about quarterback competition brewing at Ohio State. Then we're going to talk about biggest winners and losers. That'll be combined in one topic in NBA free agency and what should happen with Jimmy G and Trey Lance in San Francisco. Now, please remember to be sure to catch us on all the topics that are being talked about. We are now officially ready to get this started up. All right, so what is this opening topic going to be about? It is going to be about the Lakers. We're going to be talking about their offseason moves. Obviously, the NBA world was in disbelief when the Lakers made move after move in free agency. They signed Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, Kendrick Nunn, Wesley Matthews, Wayne Ellington, Kent Bazemore, Trevor Ariza, and Malik Monk. Wow, that is a lot of additions right there in free agency. Those moves add on to the Lakers making a trade for Russell Westbrook. The Lakers now have 9 new players added to their roster, and most of them are veterans that provide outside shooting. Before I say anything else, though, I have to go ahead and present you guys with the topic question. What is your reaction to the Lakers' free agent signings?
Man, I'm a big fan of them. We talked about last episode how we like the Westbrook trade a little better if they signed some people to shoot around them. And you know what? That's exactly what they did. I mean, when you look at players like Carmelo Anthony, Ariza, Monk, Kendrick Nunn, Wayne Ellington, Kent Bazemore, those guys can shoot the ball. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what their starting five looks like and who comes off the bench. But man, I'm really liking who they got around Westbrook and LeBron to shoot the ball.
Yeah, this was certainly an interesting offseason that the Lakers did. We said that they needed more shooters in the offseason to support LeBron, Westbrook, and AD. Well, they did exactly just that. You add in Carmelo Anthony, who's reinvented himself with the three-point shot. Then you look at Ariza. We all know he's a 3-and-D kind of guy. He's been a 3-and-D guy since we first started watching basketball, basically. Malik Monk, he's a three-point shooter. All right, and yeah, his defense is a little bit of a liability, but he's an efficient three-point shooter, so I like that as well. Kent Bazemore, he can handle the basketball a little bit, can space the floor. That's also going to be useful as well. Wayne Ellington, he can shoot the three. That's what he's really good at. And Matthews, Nunn, they're going to be able to facilitate the basketball a little bit. That's good for them too. And Dwight Howard, he was a big part of the Lakers winning the championship 2 years ago. So, not 2 years ago, but basically in the bubble. That's what I'm trying to say. That was very good what the Lakers did. They could not have had a better offseason.
Yeah, I mean, they lost Dwight Howard to the 76ers. And you know what? They bring it right back. He was really good for the Lakers, honestly, like you said, in the bubble. And I think that was kind of underrated. And they needed him last year, but they didn't have him. They bring Dwight Howard back. I like that. Like you said, those players they've been 3-and-D guys, especially Trevor Ariza, like his whole career, and they're getting guys that can shoot. They also they brought back Taylor Horton Tucker, who I like. I was afraid they're going to lose him. They got Kendrick Nunn. They got Malik Monk for young players. They also just signed Mac McClung off their summer league squad, who is a high school phenomenon, and like just this player you wanted to watch in high school because he was fun to watch. Solid in college. Sign him to the roster. That's another young person they got. So yes, they're a little old, but they also have some youth coming in.
Yeah, it's a good mixture of veterans and youth. But I mean, you have to remember this is the Western Conference, not the Eastern Conference. So I do have some concerns about these moves. Not necessarily that they were bad moves, but moves that won't help the Lakers go to the NBA Finals. I've seen on Twitter and on Instagram, wherever you go to, oh my goodness, the Lakers, they keep signing everybody else. That means they're going to automatically be a finals team. No, I still don't think that's going to be the case because these guys are going to need chemistry, and these guys also have a lot of tire on their legs. They're not going to value the regular season like most of these teams will. So look, with this team, all they're going to care about is as long as we get a decency heading to the NBA playoffs, we're going to be fine with that. All right, it just is what it is. It's as simple as that. I mean, look, all of these guys that are signed for the most part, they've played a lot of regular season basketball games. They're not going to go all in and go on a number one seed like that because the West is better than what it was when they won in the bubble. All right. And plus, you look at some of the teams, they're getting better in the Western Conference and they're getting healthier. So when I look at it like that, I mean, they're good signings, but let's not overrate the Lakers here and proclaim them as NBA Finals contenders and them winning a ring. Let's not overrate them on that.
So you don't see them as finals contenders?
I see them as a really, really good team. They're going to be a tough out in the playoffs, but I don't necessarily see
You
them.
don't think they can contend for the NBA Finals? You think
I,
it's out of the realm they contend for the NBA
I
Finals?
think they can definitely make the conference finals, but depending on their match, I mean, look, it's not going to be a cakewalk, is what I'm trying to say. It's not a
Well,
cakewalk.
it's never a cakewalk. The NBA Finals, that's the goal of the sport. It's everyone wants to do it. All 30 teams are, you could say some teams are tanking, but all 30 teams want to win the finals.
Yeah, but
It's not easy.
my point is that I'm seeing like a lot of people, particularly on Twitter, saying stuff like, and these are just mostly Twitter users. Most of them are like, "Oh my goodness, the Lakers, they're basically a super team. They are a really good team, even a great team. We'll even agree on that, but they aren't like some great bad super team out there. And they're not going to be a team that's going to dominate every single regular season game. They're not going to dominate every single playoff series. So we need to remind ourselves about that with the Los Angeles Lakers. They're a really good team, but you also have to remember that there's also some flaws with this Lakers team. Not necessarily flaws that are going to kill them, but you just have to remember that all their star players are ball dominant players. So you just have to remember that as well.
I mean, LeBron and Anthony Davis have made it work. And it's not like they're making moves and they're getting worse. Every move they've made this offseason has made them better to me. They haven't done anything that's made them a worse team. And I know what you're saying. They're not going to go all out in the regular season, but there's players on this team who will want to win regular season games. No one likes to lose basketball games. If you're a competitive basketball player, you're trying to win every single night. So I see what you're saying, but to me, I think the Lakers are my favorite to win the finals right now.
They're your favorite to win the finals. Wow, that first of all, we just forgot about the Nets' big three. We just forgot about them. First of all,
Got to see more from them. They didn't even make it to the conference finals. Got to see more from them.
injuries happen, but all right,
Yep. Got to see more.
I get where you're going. But when I just look at the Lakers, man, like yes, they're a really good team, but you can't just throw out a bunch of players as good as they are and just expect them to succeed right away like that. You got to have chemistry on the court, as far as I'm concerned. And
Same
although
with
I think,
Nets. Same thing with Nets.
but at least they've had like a year together, or at least a little less than a year. Granted, everybody was injured, but still, they have a little bit more than the Lakers in terms of an advantage, and they do play in the Eastern Conference, not in the Western
Eastern
Conference.
Conference has gone better than they're not a better conference than the West, but the East is rising a lot faster than the West is.
West is still really strong, man.
Yes,
I'm
but the East is getting stronger too.
yeah, East is getting stronger. I'll give them a little bit of credit, but come on, when you look at the Western Conference, look, man, there's some teams that have really good chemistry and they're going to go all in. Like there's just a different factor. Like a team like the Utah Jazz, a team like the Denver Nuggets, we know they're going to go 110, 120% all in on the regular season because for them, every single regular season matters and they need to get the highest seed that they can. Now, somebody like the Lakers, on the other hand, as great as a team, they know that, hey, even though we're going to only be like a 3 or a 4 seed, we know that we can beat anybody in these playoffs. So I'm just talking about the mentality, and we just need to consider about those kind of things. And you have to remember, we're acting like the Lakers finished in the top 4 last year. That did not happen. They were a 7 seed last year. Jumping down from a 7 seed to a 3 or a 2 seed in the Western Conference, that's really impressive. All right. So you just got to look at it from that perspective. All right. They added a lot of veteran players, they added a lot of shooters, but you also have to look at the fact that they have to have time to develop chemistry. Look, I'll put it like this. If the Lakers get off to a slow start, don't be surprised and don't panic about it, because they're going to go on a run late in the year. Because when it comes to March and April, this is not going to be a team that the people are going to want to play against, and they'll be unstoppable. So that's how I look away about this. But you're going to need to do more than that in order to become the best team in the regular season. And in the playoffs, hey, anything can happen. That's what I'm trying to say, especially these last few years from what we've seen.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Anything can happen, but this is I mean, without Russell Westbrook, without, you know, uh, this is pretty much a new team, but LeBron and Anthony Davis, they won in 5 games every single series in the bubble. Like every single series, they won in 5 games, I'm pretty sure. And so like they pretty much steamrolled everyone. It wasn't even close. And now you add someone like Russell Westbrook, you add Carmelo Anthony, you bring back Dwight Howard from that team, and you add shooters all around, young and old. And I think that's today, if you can add shooters and you can add in a former MVP, that's a championship formula right there.
Yeah, they're definitely a championship formula team. There's no question about it. But I got to ask you about this, though. Remember, Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony were teammates back on the Thunder, and their chemistry wasn't great. So how's their chemistry going to be great all of a sudden now? I'm not saying that it won't be, but I'm just saying that's something to think about.
I know what you're saying, but also Carmelo Anthony at that time was not in the role he's in now. Carmelo Anthony has developed into a role player in helping a team. He was not that at all. He's admitted himself. The media knows it. He's a different player than he was. He knows he's here to help a team rather than be the guy on the team.
Yeah, man, I agree with that. And I thought that you couldn't say it any better. And to fact check you, the Heat did take the Lakers to 6 games in the finals. They didn't win every single series in 5 games.
Who
So
did?
the Heat took the Lakers won in 6 in the NBA Finals. It
I don't
wasn't
think.
in
I
five.
think it was.
It took them 6 games. Yeah, they take them 6 games. But the Heat were like down like 3-1. Then they made it close in Game 5.
You're right. They did win in 6. Yep.
Yeah, but they
Yes.
did. But the point is that every series it felt like they were going to win the series. But hey, new year, different teams every year. We'll just see how the chemistry plays out. You think the chemistry is going to jump off right away? I don't think that's necessarily
Nope.
going to be the case.
Not what I'm saying.
What are you trying to say? Like, where do you
I'm
think the
saying the
Lakers?
Lakers are talent. I'm saying the Lakers are talented to win any game they want to. I'm not saying the chemistry is going to jump off right away, but it's going to form together eventually. And they're talented enough to win at the start. And by the end, when they're resting players, the chemistry is going to be there.
What seed they're going to finish?
3.
I agree. Even though we made it sound like we disagreed the entire topic, I actually agree with Shawn. I think they will finish as a top 3 seed team in the Western Conference. I just don't see how they're going to surpass the Jazz and the Nuggets, just because when fully healthy with those two teams, just because they have so good of chemistry and their star players already have good chemistry is what I'm trying to say. Well, that's what we tried to say about the Lakers. We said that this was a good move. These were good moves for the Lakers and that they'll finish as a top 3 team in the Western Conference. But you think that they can win any basketball game if they are on the right mode to do so? I'm not quite as sold on that, but I think we can just agree to disagree on that. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. Well, we're going to be talking about the Chicago Bulls. Wow, the Bulls are making moves out here. All right, so this next topic, it's going to be involving free agency. All right, with what the Bulls did. They had an interesting offseason, to say the least. They signed big names in Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, which on paper should even improve the roster. Don't forget, they also added Alex Caruso, who should give the Bulls solid minutes. However, they have the Lauri Markkanen fiasco going on. Who knows what's going to happen with that? All right, so look, the Bulls, they want a first round back for if they're going to give up Markkanen in a sign trade, but look, no team's going to do that now. All right, they even lost Thad Young to the Spurs in a sign trade for DeMar DeRozan. It was a conflicting offseason for the Bulls. With all of that being said, this now leads me to ask this type of question. Were you impressed with the Bulls signing Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan?
Yeah, I mean, I love what they did there. Those 2 players make them a playoff contender. or they make them a playoff team. They also have in Vucevic, who came in later last year, Patrick Williams and Kobe White. They're just getting better. Patrick Williams looks good in summer league. He looks like, he's the man among boys, which he should. And meanwhile, they only lost Thaddeus Young, Tomas Satoransky, and Garrett Temple. They added players that are making them, a very good East basketball team. I'm not saying top three, top four team, but they could compete for that fourth spot. I think they'll fight to avoid the playing game, and it's a good team. It makes them a lot better than they were.
I love the move that not the Bills, I meant the Bulls made. Those were very good moves by them, all right? Look, they already had Levine and Vucevic. That's already a good 1-2 punch. Now you add in DeMar DeRozan. He's a mid-range scorer. Yeah, he can't space the floor, but if he's going to be your number 3 option, that's a pretty dang good number 3 option. Other than Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball's he has turned himself into one of the most underrated players in the NBA with the way that this man can space the floor, which is a big jump to what he was entering the pros. And considering the fact that we know this guy can play defense when he wants to. All right, so he's just going to space the floor really well. He's going to distribute playmaking. He's going to take the pressure off of Zach LaVine. And also, remember, this now pushes Kobe White to the bench. And Kobe White is going to be one of the best bench players in the NBA. All right, so when I look at it from that perspective, just really impressed with the moves that were made.
Yeah, I mean, you look at even like in addition to like Alex Caruso, he's going to come and be an electric player off the bench. And if he can play with Kobe White, that'd be great. Alex Caruso is going to bring it on both ends. Kobe White, they don't love his defense as much, but I think Alex Caruso or something like that can pick it up. Kobe White, he'll be in 6-man of the year contention. Lonzo Ball, you said it. I mean, and you said he could play defense when he wants to. Completely agree. I think he's almost an elite defender from the perimeter side. I think he's an elite playmaker, which I will say he's elite there. And a lot of people disagree with that. But you look at how this man plays, you look at his basketball IQ, and it's among the top of the NBA. And you make those additions with an all-star, that's DeMar DeRozan, who I think can play as a team player. Zach LaVine played as a team player before. This is going to be an exciting team to watch. You'll want to turn on the TV and watch this team.
Yeah, definitely. Lonzo Ball, man. This guy seems to be going on the Drew Holiday career arc in terms of his progression. If that's who he's going to be, that's going to be a really good player. Because remember, Drew Holiday was a number 3 option on a championship winning team. So that means Lonzo Ball's got that kind of potential. Anyways, though, yes, one of the most underrated moves was Alex Caruso to the Bulls. Really like that a lot. He's going to provide a lot of things for them. He's just going to provide them solid minutes. He's going to provide them solid energy. Remember, they lost Thomas Satoransky, who wasn't really good for the Bulls anyway. So they got a massive upgrade in that department. And then, like I said, signing Lonzo Ball, you push Kobe White to the bench. Kobe White's going to be one of the better players in the NBA in terms of scoring. He's just a scorer. He's a bucket getter. And anytime you get to add DeMar DeRozan, who, by the way, is not even getting max contract money, that's actually really good value what they got for them. When I look at the Chicago Bulls, this team has to be a top 8 team in the Eastern Conference at minimum. At worst case, has to be top 8. And they got Billy Donovan, too, a coach that I really like a lot. I know you're not really that high on him, but I'm a Billy Donovan kind of guy. This is going to be a team that's going to be one of the most entertaining teams to watch in the NBA. And don't sleep on Patrick Williams as well. Patrick Williams is one of the best perimeter. He's going to be one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA.
Yeah, not a huge fan of Billy Donovan when they had Russell Westbrook. I liked him in Florida. I liked him, when he had Chris Paul at the Thunder. I've grown more fond of Billy Donovan. I don't think he's one of the better coaches in the league, but I do like him more than I did. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a great team to watch. I don't know. It's more of like this team has higher expectations than they've had since Derrick Rose, and will they be able to meet that? I mean, I think they can. I think, like you said, the floor should be the 8 seed.
Yeah, and they might even end up being a top 6, top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference too if everything plays out the way that it should. They don't have a lot of weaknesses. Now, I want to actually move on to one of the concerns that they have, which is Lauri Markkanen. What's your takeaway about that?
It's a weird situation. He does not want to play for them. So I think that just opens the door for a sign and trade opportunity, which, could help them a little even more, replace him with another maybe big man. They traded away Wendell Carter to the Magic in order to get Vucevic. I think they still want like another big man, especially one that can space the floor a little bit alongside Vucevic. So if they can get a sign and trade, I'll like the offseason even more. But if not, if they just kind of let him walk or something like that, I'd kind of lower that a little bit for him.
I mean, honestly, yeah, it kind of sucks for the Bulls that Lauri Markkanen doesn't want to play for them. I like Markkanen a lot. When I
Mhm.
when I scouted him in the NBA draft, I thought he was going to be something like a poor man's Dirk Nowitzki.
Mhm.
Obviously, he hasn't lived up to that, but I think it's just more because of the situation rather than him being bad. Because when he was given the opportunity, he was actually a very productive player. He can shoot the three. He's a decent post player, and he can guard the paint kind of well compared to what you would actually think about Marketing. Look, if the Bulls lose Marketing, no big deal. If they manage to get him back, he's going to be one of the better bench players in the NBA. If they can get a sign and trade for Lauri Markkanen, that would be impressive in of itself.
Yeah, completely agree. If they somehow work out, you know, to where he can come back and he's going to be, playing for the Bulls, that'd be great for him. Sign and trade. I think that's definitely on the table. I think there's definitely people who want a guy like Lauri Markkinen. So, if they can work that out, awesome. If not, it's whatever. But I do like the team, how this team did bring in shooters. I just hope they trade him for a shooter. People don't like saying this about Lonzo Ball, but his shooting's gotten better every year of his career. He's a 40+% 3-point shooter now, which is very good. DeRozan, he's only elevated his 3-point shot. He used to be a mid-range assassin and nothing more. Now he can shoot a little bit. Zach LaVine, he's gonna put the ball in the basket. It's gonna be fun to watch. Kobe White, just everyone.
Yeah, that like I said, we'll just see what happens with Markkanen. Well, like I said though, the Bulls they need to be aggressive in building around Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
Check mark. They did that. They brought in Lonzo Ball. Good move. Adding in DeMar DeRozan. Also a good move. If it doesn't work out, they could probably get better value out of that. They could probably get some nice assets out of that as well. And if they put themselves in a position where if they lose Lauri Markkanen, no big deal. If they manage to get him back, that's going to be an added bonus. And if we can get something in return for Lauri Markkanen, even better. Wow. All right. Final question I got to ask you about this topic. What letter grade you going to give this the Bulls off season?
I'm gonna give it an A. I think it's one of the better off seasons among the NBA, and we'll talk about that in a few topics you'll see of what off seasons we liked. But this one's definitely up there for one of my favorite off seasons.
Well, I'm going to give it a B plus. I would have given it an A, but they didn't have a first round pick. So when you don't have a first round pick, I can't really give you an A. But I'm going to give you a B plus. You did everything right if you're the Bulls. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I like their second round pick. I'll throw that in. Ao Desumu. Uh, you know,
Underrated.
yeah, very underrated. He's high level player in college. I think he'll just come in and provide scoring for the Bulls.
Yep, definitely. All right, let's move on now to this next topic, which will be about Kawhi Leonard. All right, so he re-signed with the Clippers, 4 years, $176.3 million. That was actually a little bit surprising hearing the contract. I thought it'd be like a 1+1. Anyways, though, I mean, Kawhi Leonard, he's coming off a torn ACL. All right, he's going to be out for some time. We don't know what the timetable is. We know Kawhi takes forever with this decision, so who knows what's going to happen. All right, so he could be out for quite a while. But hey, the Clippers, at least they got Kawhi Leonard back now for the long haul for the next whatever years you want to say. I know it says 4, but he's going to opt out after the third year. That's just what Kawhi does. He might even leave sooner if he requests a trade. Who knows what's going to happen with Kawhi Leonard? Anyways, though, yeah, so the Clippers, they were able to retain what they needed to retain. Before I say anything else, though, I have to go ahead and present you guys with the topic question. What is your reaction to Kawhi Leonard re-signing with the Clippers?
I'm gonna say what you said. I was surprised by the how many years it was in 4, but I will tell you this. I think coming off an injury for a player, it's kind of scary and your market goes down a little bit. So he just wants to secure that money, and he did that. Good for him. I like Kawhi Leonard. And whenever he comes back, I think he's gonna go back to what he's been. You know, top top 10, top 8 caliber NBA player who's going to be clutch, put the ball in basket, elite defender. He's going to come back and do what he does.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I was shocked when I heard the contract terms. I thought I thought he was going to sign a 1+1. And I think the only reason he signed a 4-year deal was because some people close to Kawhi Leonard probably told him, hey, dude, you need to stop playing with this drama. Just sign the deal. You're playing with an injured knee. You're not going to get a better deal with this. You don't want to end up like a DeMarcus Cousins who ended up taking like 1-year deals. Now look at him. And I'm not saying he's not unproductive, but he obviously is not the same player they once was. Not even close. All right. So now they secure Kawhi Leonard. Now they can go all in on focusing on their task, which is to get to the NBA Finals and win it. Last year, they accomplished going to the conference finals for the first time in their franchise history. Good job to the Clippers for that. Now they're on to the next goal. They got to make sure to get back to the finals. And look, just because they got to the conference finals last year doesn't mean anything. The Western Conference got better this offseason. All right. And then when you also look at some of the teams, and yes, I know that the Clippers beat the Jazz in the playoffs. Guess what happened? And I know that there was no Kawhi Leonard Game 5 and Game 6. Guess what? Terrence Mann isn't going to be going off every single night. And also remember, the Jazz didn't have Mike Conley either in that series, and Donovan Mitchell was not 100%. So you also got to look at it like that. Then you look at the Nuggets. Really like the fact that they're getting Jamal Murray back, Jokic and Murray. That's a really underrated team. A lot of people are sleeping on that team as far as I'm concerned. Then you look at some of the other teams. Who's to say this team is still even better than the Phoenix Suns? So, hey, even though the Clippers, I think they're going to regress, at least they got Kawhi Leonard back. That's what matters.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely a team that probably regresses from what they were. Um, and as you heard earlier, I think we both agree they'll probably be less than the Lakers. But, if you turn on playoff basketball, Kawhi Leonard, he can play playoff basketball, even though they'll be a little worse. I think the Clippers can't count them out, whether they're playing the Mavericks or, the Suns, whoever it is. This team is capable of knocking out any team in the Western Conference. Dangerous team.
Is there a chance that the Clippers could potentially fall down to a 6 or a 7 seed?
6 seed, yes. 7 seed, I'm gonna say no for now, but I have to see kind of how this plays out. But right now, I'm gonna say 6 seed is pretty much their floor. I'm gonna say 7 seeds like 4, but I don't think they fall that low. I think 6 seeds kind of like where they go down to the most.
I wouldn't be shocked if they fell down to a 7 seed as far as I'm concerned. When you look at Kawhi Leonard's injury, who's to say that he won't be out the entire season? All right, considering how long this guy recovers from his injuries, who even knows? And when he comes back, he's going to have to play in every single basketball game once he comes back in order to be competitive in the Western Conference. He won't have the rights anymore to just sit down whenever he feels like it. When I look at the teams in the Western Conference, in no particular order, here are the teams that I think are better than the Clippers right now. Got the Lakers, all right? We can agree with that. Got the Jazz, all right? I think we can agree with that. Nuggets, we can agree with that. I'm also going to go with the Phoenix Suns. I think the Phoenix Suns are better than them right now. And this one's going to be a little bit controversial. I'm going to go with the Dallas Mavericks. I
agree.
think that the Dallas Mavericks are going to improve next year, especially Porzingis. I think he's going to have a career year next year. Okay, and then I'm going to go with the sleeper team. Nobody's going to see this coming. I got the Memphis Grizzlies. I know that a lot of people. I know that's a hot take, but I think the Memphis Grizzlies could be better than the Los Angeles Clippers next year if Kawhi Leonard does not come back by February or March. All right, so even though I like this deal, I mean, the Clippers are not going to be that good of a team next year anyways. Paul George as your lone star, that's not going to cut it, all right? So they better hope Kawhi Leonard can come back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, Kawhi can't afford to take his time as much as he likes to now. He has to get back. He has to get healthy as soon as possible. And if not, I mean, we listed 5 teams we really like better that we agree on. The 6th one was the Grizzlies. That's kind of a toss-up to me, but you could argue and get me into that boat too. If they fall down to that 7th seed, I mean, he's got to get back fast. He's got to bring them back.
And if Kawhi Leonard's at less than 100%, he might not be the same player that he once was. I mean, torn ACLs are not an easy injury to recover. I didn't even list out some of the other teams in the Western Conference. That just comes to show you how stacked the West is. I didn't even list out a team like the Warriors. I didn't even list out the Pelicans. That's just some of the examples. So when I look at it, the Clippers, they have a tough road back. It's really going to be tough for them. with their situation and everything like that. So Kawhi Leonard, like I said, he's got to figure out how to get back from the injury by January. Are we sure Kawhi Leonard is going to be willing to rush through his injury? Because Kawhi Leonard does not have a history of rushing through injuries. If anything, this guy has been shown a willingness to stall through his injuries. And if the Clippers are a victim of Kawhi Leonard stalling through his injury, this team might have to participate in the play-in tournament. They're not going to miss the playoffs probably, but they're going to have to play in the play-in, and they're not an NBA Finals contender. If I'm not even fully sold with the Lakers being a Finals contender, this team definitely is not a Finals contender, especially with Kawhi Leonard out. All right, so you also have to look at the KD blueprint as well with the Nets, right? KD, he took an entire year, take it off with the Nets, right? And they had Kyrie Irving and mostly role players. And what happened? They finished as a 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. I think that the Clippers are going to finish 7th in the Western Conference using the likely blueprint, which is Kawhi Leonard will probably come back with about, let's just say, about 20 games left to go in the regular season. And that means he's going to have to play 20 consecutive regular season games. Can he handle that? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, a big problem for this team is, are they resting Paul George and Kawhi Leonard too much? And do they have time to gel? Where now they really, I mean, they've had a few years together, but to me, they still haven't even had like a season's worth of time to like really play with each other. I mean, it's crazy to me. So I mean, this is hurting them. They bring back a lot of the same players, so don't hate that. So this is going to be a competitive team, but if they are in that playing tournament, I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't expect them to completely fall out of playoffs.
Yeah, at least it was a good move. Well, did you see Kawhi Leonard returning to the Clippers, or did you think he was going to bail on them and leave?
I thought it was gonna be a weird situation, and I thought like I agreed with you. I was thinking 1+1 deal, and I'd be fine with that for both sides. But you know what? He tried to secure his money, and maybe he likes LA. I guess he likes LA, and he's gonna stay there and try and win a championship.
Yeah, I like that he secured the money. Like you said, I thought that he was going to do a 1+1, but I like that he secured the deal on the LA Clippers. Now everybody knows that he's all in on winning a championship, or at least should be all in on winning a championship with the Clippers. And remember, they also got Paul George locked up for the long term as well. So now he and PG 13, playoff P, whatever you want to call him, they can go all in on it.
Yep, this now or never for the Clippers to me, because if you start falling again, then players are going to start wanting out. So, you know what? Get with it, compete again, and we'll go from there.
Yep, those are our takeaways from Kawhi Leonard re-signing with the Clippers. All right, let's move on to the next topic. This is going to be involving the NFL. It's going to be involving a new segment that I created. It is called Start, Bench, Cut. There will be 3 NFL running backs that will be in for this experiment. Start means the best, bench means the second best, and cut means the worst out of the whole group. In this segment, the NFL running backs in here are in no particular order: Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook, and Alvin Kamara. Each guy will speak for a minute total on why they have the order that they have. That means, Shawn, that when you go over for each guy, and this also goes for me too, we talk for 20 seconds on each guy approximately. All right, so Shawn, are you ready to give out your order?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and throw. It's a tough one, but I think I'm gonna throw Alvin Kamara as my starter. It was close between him and the next guy, but Kamara is a guy super elusive, can catch the ball, can run through guys too. Like if you need to lean your offense on Alvin Kamara, he can do it. We saw that plenty of times last year. They might have to do it a little more this year with Jameis Winston being the starting quarterback. I like Jameis, don't love him, but you know what? You get a downgrade from Drew Brees either way. We're going to see Alvin Kamara be a very good running back this year. Maybe, the second best in the league, maybe even the first best if Christian McCaffrey isn't what he usually is. Bench, it's going to be Dalvin Cook. I like Dalvin Cook a lot, always have. But how to put him here, I think the Vikings will lean on him though, and he doesn't have like a true, real good backup. So they're going to need to lean on him. I'm not sold on Kirk Cousins, but I do kind of like that wide receiver room. But Dalvin Cook, I mean, he's a top end running back. It was really close between him and Alvin Kamara. And for cut, I'm going to have to go with Nick Chubb. Nothing against Nick Chubb, but personally, I don't think he is the best running back in Cleveland. And that's nothing against Nick Chubb again, but he's just sharing a room with someone that's really good in Kareem Hunt. And I like Nick Chubb. I try and get him every year in fantasy, but I'm not sold on him this year compared to these other guys.
Yeah, so that's your list. All right, I'm going to come up with mine. All right, start. I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara. I don't think that it's as close as what you made it sound like. I think it's Alvin Kamara by a good amount. Why? Because this guy can run between the tackles. He catches the football well. In my opinion, he's been the MVP of the Saints for the last couple of years. He's the key player to the Saints' success the last few years. Not Drew Brees, not whoever's playing quarterback, not Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is the cog to that offense. If you take away Alvin Kamara from the Saints offense, they're not going to function. That's why the Saints quarterbacks keep winning games. Is because of Kamara. And Kamara, man, he's the second best running back in football. All right. Not the second, but top three. That's what I'm trying to say. He's a top three running back in football. He's only behind CMC and Derrick Henry. So, like I said, just a great player. He's very versatile. He catches the football well. Let's move on to the bench. This was kind of a debate between him and the next guy. I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook as for bench. He's slightly better than the next guy on the list. I mean, Dalvin Cook, he's just a bell cow running back. He's a guy you can give it to 20, 25 times a game. You can give him between the tackles. You can do tosses on the outside. You can run zone read concepts with this guy. Well, that's if he has a real quarterback, but we know that he's capable of doing that. He can play gritty football. He can play in cold weather football. He can play in the dome. And he's got underrated shiftiness. And don't forget, this guy can also catch passes too. Although he can't necessarily line up as a receiver, he's capable of catching the football and being a threat with the football in his hands as a receiver. And I'm going to go with Nick Chubb as cut. This one, nothing against Nick Chubb. I could have easily put him on the bench over Dalvin Cook, but I'm going to go with Chubb. Why? Well, I mean, when you're splitting reps with Kareem Hunt, it's kind of hard to put you that high when you're not even the highest guy on your own team potentially. So that means he's going to have limited opportunities. And as good as Nick Chubb is, as much as I like his running ability, he's not a pass catching threat. He only had 16 pass receptions last year. So he's not really a pass catching guy. And he's just a guy who just powers through running. He's just a power runner. And although I got nothing against power runners, I like them a lot. There's just some things that he just can't do while the other two can. So I'm just going to have to go with cut for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of tough between that last episode we did it with quarterbacks. I think it was a lot more like we had different results. This one we had the same results, but it wasn't super easy.
And there was also a little bit of different reasoning as well. All right, let's move on to this next topic. So this next topic will involve a quarterback competition, which I love covering in general. This one will be focusing on the Ohio State quarterback competition. It is a competition between C.J. Stroud, Jack Miller III, and Kyle McCord. And don't count out Quinn Ewers, who reclassified himself. Now, Quinn Ewers, like I said, he reclassified, which caused him to enter earlier than expected. Anyways, though, those guys are going to have to fill a big gap that they lost from losing Justin Fields. All those guys, though, are inexperienced for the most part at the collegiate level. Before I say anything else, though, I have to go ahead and present you guys with the top question. Who will win the Ohio State quarterback competition?
I'm gonna say it now. Quarter or college football, that's my complete specialty, elite specialty. That's what I cover the most. So I think this is the best, very best quarterback room in the country for college football. Any program, anyone would trade their quarterback room for this one. Some might hide it a little more. There might be a better quarterback somewhere, but this is the best quarterback room as a whole in the country. You have 5-star CJ Stroud, Elite 11 champion, who's expected to be the starter. You got Jack Miller, he was a 4-star, class 2020, going to be a sophomore this year. Like him a lot. He's impressed a lot. He's a smart quarterback, accurate quarterback. You have Kyle McCord, 2021 5-star, was expected to be the future of this program. And he's been really good in camp. When I tell you he's been really good in camp, they love him in camp. But then you have Quinn Ewers, who I think arrived on campus yesterday at Ohio State. Let me tell you about Quinn Ewers. He was the number one player in his 2022 class. Like you said, he reclassified. Not only did he stay number one, he maintained a perfect 100 rating, which doesn't happen. Let me tell you about a guy at UNC, Tony Grimes, cornerback, like defense back. He was number 6, 7, or 8 in his 2021 class. He reclassified to 2020 and was dropped all the way down to like 47 or something. And I love Tony Grimes. He actually had a good freshman year. I
He's a good
expect him
player.
to be a first round draft pick, but he dropped like 30 spots. You know what happened to Quinn Ewers? He maintained the alpha. He's the alpha dog. So he's a surefire number 1 pick, but he's not who I have winning this job right now. I have CJ Stroud right now. Too talented, knows the system. Quinn Ewers arriving a little late. But when you have this talented of a room, I think at least 2 of them transfer out. But I think Quinn Ewers, if Ohio State does not win a championship this year, Quinn Ewers' job is his job.
Yeah, I thought that you couldn't have said it any perfectly. I mean, you look at Quinn Ewers, amazing player, and we're just coming off of seeing Trevor Lawrence have an amazing run at Clemson. And Quinn Ewers, he could be the next Trevor Lawrence. I really like this Quinn Ewers guy. This guy is a beast, big arm guy, can move well, inside and outside of the pocket. He's accurate. He's got no weaknesses in his game. He's an amazing player, true freshman. And he reclassified too, so he's already ahead of the curve. Really like Quinn Ewers. Really wanted to pick him to win this job. Day one, though, I can't do that. He just arrived on campus yesterday, first of all. All right. And it's very hard in general for a true freshman to win a starting job, especially at a program as elite as this one. You also look at the whole quarterback room. Wow. It's really amazing. Four guys that I like all a lot. CJ Stroud, he's the expected starter. He was the MVP of the Elite 11 competition. And he also came in for one game last year. He had a 48-yard rushing touchdown on the one rushing attempt that he had. Really good. Then you look at Jack Miller, all right? He's a pro-style QB, all right? And although Ryan Day, he doesn't necessarily love pro-style QBs, he can work with them. I mean, look, he was a 4-year star in high school, pretty good player. And he came in for 2 games, and, he showed that he had some rushing effectiveness in him. Then you look at Kyle McCord. He's actually a player that people are sleeping on. He's a good player. He can definitely play. If he was in another program, he'd be the starter, unquestioned. He displays excellent arm strength, and he has the size to be really good. He kind of reminds me of a Matthew Stafford type player. So that's pretty good right there. Who am I going to pick to win this job, though? This is really tough, but I'm going to pick CJ Stroud, and I'm going to ask you this next, all right? So what's the depth chart going to look like, and who are going to be the transfers?
Depth chart to me, to week 1 depth chart, I'll tell you week 1 and I'll tell you end of season depth chart. Week 1, CJ Stroud, Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers, then Jack Miller. End of season, assuming they're all here, CJ Stroud, Quinn Ewers 2nd, Kyle McCord 3rd, and Jack Miller still remains 4th. Now, who I think is going to transfer out, let me just bring up a name real quick, and I'll see if you know who it is. Joe Burrow, do you know who that is? Joe Burrow. Hopefully everyone knows who that is. He was behind Dwayne Haskins, and it was either Cordell Jones or JT Barrett. I think JT Barrett. And he ended up transferring out because of injury and didn't win the job.
And too
He
many
ends
people in
up
the room.
having the best college football season of all time, maybe. Largest Heisman win ever. It wasn't even close. Goes on a national championship. If Kyle McCord here's who I expect to transfer out: Kyle McCord and Jack Miller. I expect both of them to transfer out, and I expect Kyle McCord to be a first-round pick. I expect Jack Miller to at least be a draft pick, and here's what I expect. I expect 3 first-round picks in this quarterback room, and I expect 4 overall draft picks. All of them to be drafted, 3 first-round picks, and there'll be edits when they're drafted, and it'll be like, this was once Ohio State's quarterback room. You see it with Alabama's wide receiver room. People are going to drool over this quarterback room. It's going to be insane. And we're going to end up seeing how good, like, they had it. But let me tell you this, there hasn't been one pass attempt in this entire quarterback room. But if one doesn't play as good, next man up mentality.
Yeah, this is actually one of the most stacked quarterback rooms I've ever seen. Whoever's going to be the 4th-stringer is going to be the greatest 4th-string quarterback ever. All right. I got Jack Miller being the 4th-string quarterback. Nothing against him. He just doesn't stand out compared to the other 3. These other 3 guys, though, they're going to be future first-rounders. Jack Miller, he's going to be a day 2 pick. Nothing to sneeze at, but compared to these other 3 guys, that's not really good. All right. I got CJ Stroud being the week one starter, like I said. I'm going to go with Kyle McCord as the second string guy, and then Quinn Ewers being the third string guy. But then after week one, I got Quinn Ewers moving up to second string. Then I think they're going to make a quarterback change. I got Quinn Ewers becoming the starter for Ohio State by week 5. I'm going to pick week 5. That'll be his first start. All right. Nothing against CJ Stroud, but when the coaches feel like Quinn Ewers is going to be ready to ball, they have to play him. All right. What players know who can ball and who can't. And when they see that, no matter how much they like the guy that's an overachiever, when they see a guy that is a physical specimen and can hit every single throw and is also a great leader as well, they're going to have no choice but to play him. It's really quite that simple. It's a simple concept to understand. And I see Kyle McCord and I see Jack Miller being transfers. All right, so that's what I got.
Let me say this real quick. They play Oregon week 2, and if CJ Stroud for some reason goes down or just isn't playing as well, I think they just throw in Quinn Ewers, throw him in the fire against Oregon, and you know what? I think he would end up winning that game and stuff. But you know, I know you said week 5 they could make the change, but if CJ Stroud easily knocks off Oregon, I think he maintains that job pretty much the whole season. But I also want to say this wide receiver room is easily comparable to that one of Alabama's. There's going to be many first round picks. There's going to be like, it's absurd. They have like 4 or 5 5-star wide receivers. They have lots of 4 stars. I mean, this is just an awesome wide receiver room. Wide receiver room might be better than this quarterback room if you look at it, and that's
saying something.
That is saying something. So even if you throw in Jack Miller could have a Heisman season. So, you know, to me, it's whoever you want to put in, they're going to be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. There's no argument about that. But I just think that you're selling CJ Stroud a little short by saying that it's going to take him to week 2. I got a little more belief in CJ Stroud than
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if needed, but I think they're going to blow out Oregon. And that's saying Oregon has a weak secondary. If they can't guard this wide receiver room, I mean, I don't think. I was just saying hypothetically, I think Quinn Ewers would be put in week 2, but I don't think that's going to happen at all.
All right. That's true. I see where you come from. All right. Let's move on now to this next topic, which we'll be debating about which team was the biggest winner and the biggest loser in the 2021 NBA free agency class. There were a good amount of winners, good amount of losers as well in this 2021 free agency class. That means you cannot go wrong with a lot of options. Out of all the winners, though, as well, and the losers, both of us have to go ahead and pick our choices. This is from a franchisee's perspective, though. Before I say anything else, I have to go ahead and present you guys with the topic question. Who is your biggest winner and biggest loser in the 2021 NBA free agency class?
This is a tough to pick winner because I see lots of winners whenever I look at my list. But I'm going to take the easy road. I'm going to say who we talked about earlier, the Chicago Bulls. I love the additions. They didn't lose hardly anything. If they make that Larry Markkinen and bring him back or sign and trade, even makes it better. But man, I really like this this team they got. They've really upgraded in free agency. They went from an East bottom feeder to now a really playoff, not only playoff contender, but like make some noise in the playoffs.
Even though I gave the Chicago Bulls a B plus for their offseason move, I actually, now that I think about it, I'm actually going to give them as the biggest winners, all right? And it was very tough. I had a lot of winners on the list. I could have easily picked the Los Angeles Lakers. They were obviously my 1A, 1B thing. But I'm going to go with the Chicago Bulls. Why? Because they added wing players and guards to help their depth. Now, when you look at their additions, they're going to help Kobe White take another step. He's going to be an even better scorer off the bench. And like I said, man, this is at least a top 8 team in the Eastern Conference at the least. I couldn't say that about any of the teams who were fringe playing teams. All right, let me run it down for you. Boston, yeah, they got Tatum and Brown fully healthy, and they got Al Horford now back in the building, but they didn't move the needle that much. They might only move up to a 6 or a 5 seed, all right, especially with the coaching staff that they have now. And then you look at the Wizards, obviously, well, we'll get to them a little bit later, but they had a terrible offseason, in my opinion. And then you look at the Pacers, I don't even know what to say about that team. They just made confusing move after confusing move. And then you look at the Hornets. They made some nice additions, but they also took some steps back as well. And then you look at the Chicago Bulls. They didn't really lose anything out of it. So when you look at those playing teams, the ones that were in the fringe, basically, I'm going to have to go with the Chicago Bulls. No question about it. So I'm actually going to go with them as the biggest winners because they elevated themselves to a top 18 by itself. They might even elevate themselves to a 5 or 6 seed if everything plays right for them.
Yeah, I'll throw out my other three biggest winners real quick. Just say the names: Lakers, Knicks, and then Hornets. All my biggest, or follow the next biggest winners. But you think a B plus is the best offseason in the league?
I mean, like I said, I kind of thought about mid topic. I know I'm kind of giving two answers here, but I said B plus just simply because they didn't have a first round pick. But then I thought about some more. It's like, yeah, they didn't get a first round pick, but you can actually kind of think of getting Nikola Vucevic as basically a first round pick. And plus, their second rounder, really underrated in my opinion. And they just did everything right in the offseason. Let's just assume Lauri Markkanen is going to come back. It's, if Lauri Markkanen comes back, I'm going to give it an A for the offseason. If he doesn't, I'm just going to leave it as a B plus. And yes, I could have gone with the Lakers. I almost did, but I decided not to just because I have too many question marks about the chemistry and the fact that they're not going to go 110% all in on the regular season like a team like the Bulls will. So I'm just going to go with that. Let's move on now to the losers. So who do you got?
Uh, Biggest loser might surprise you, but I'm gonna go with the Portland Trailblazers. They lost Carmelo Anthony. He was a big piece for them. They lost Zach Collins. They lost Ennis Cancer. And most importantly to me, more important than Carmelo Anthony, they lost Gary Trent. And uh, I think they did retain Norman Powell, which was good, but they lost Gary Trent. And Gary Trent was a very, very important player for this team. And the fact that they lost him and couldn't bring him back, that's a huge, that's a big loss for me. On top of Mello, Collins, and Canner, and you only bring back, or you only add Zeller, who I like, don't love, liked him a lot on the Hornets, but don't love him on the Trailblazers, and then you add Tony Snell. That's You lost a lot more than you got there, and so with that being said, that's why they are my biggest losers.
You stole my pick. That was the one I was going to pick. All right. Well, I'm going to agree with you. I was shocked that you agreed with me 100%. I thought you couldn't say any better. I couldn't find one person before you that said the Portland Trailblazers were the biggest losers in free agency. The Portland Trailblazers to me were definitely the biggest losers in free agency. There was no question about it. All right. I'm actually going to give them an F in free agency. Yes, you heard me right. I'm going to give them an F. All right. Look, man. When you add Cody Zeller and Tony Snell, and we call them major additions, you already lost the offseason. All right, Cody Zeller. Okay, don't get me wrong. He's a good glue guy. He's going to do good in the plus minus department. He's a bench player at best. He's not starting material. Come on. And then you add Tony Snell, who hasn't been basically relevant in a couple of years. I mean, and he's supposed to replace Gary Trent Jr. Gary Trent, very underrated player, had loads of potential. They lost him in free agency. They couldn't even get anything back for him. And then they lost Carmelo Anthony. That's an underrated loss, man. I mean, the Portland Trailblazers needed a Carmelo Anthony type of player. He can space the floor well. He's just a good number three overall, good number three option. That's what I'm trying to say. Now you cause more confusion in the Damian Lillard situation. Who like Damian Lillard obviously wanted to stay with the Trailblazers, but now he's thinking about wanting out because they keep making moves that make zero sense. You fire Terry Stotts, now you bring in Chauncey Billups, a move that you liked. I didn't like at all. And then they just keep making all these moves. It's like, are they rebuilding? Are they trying to win? What are they trying to do? Are they just trying to piss Dame off? And we know Damian Lillard is a good dude. He's a good guy. He is one of the nicest guys in the NBA. But when he wants out, man, I don't. It's just so confusing what they're trying to do. I mean, what does Cody Zeller bring to the table that helps the Portland Trailblazers? Trailblazers need a defense. Cody Zeller doesn't help them out with defense that much. All right. And Tony Snell, yeah, he might be a nice addition, but he would have only been a nice addition had you been able to retain your other players. I don't know. There was just a lot of confusing moves that the Portland Trailblazers did. Didn't really even make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, so the only thing keeping them in an F for me is their draft pick and their undrafted free agent. But I will throw in what also failed the offseason kind of was the Damian Lillard making him unhappy, which is an awful thing. Hopefully it's better now or getting better. I don't know. But the only thing keeping it from an F inside a D for me was their 43rd pick, Greg Brown, who I like out of Texas. Wish they needed a big man. He can do that. And then they also signed Trendon Watford from LSU after the draft, who I thought should have been drafted. So that's the only thing keeping them from an F.
Yeah, those are fair points, but those guys aren't going to be players that will impact them majorly down the road. I got to give them an F. They are going to take a major slide down the standings in the Western Conference. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the Western Conference next year, assuming that Damian Lillard will get traded. Now, of course, with the great player that Dame is, he's going to keep them competitive in every game. All right, it just is what it is. I don't know. It's just a lot of confusing moves that the Portland Trailblazers made. I mean, to me, they had to be the biggest losers. I don't even think that there's a clear second. I don't even think that anybody's near the Portland Trailblazers. That's how bad I value the Trailblazers in this offseason. That must have been a nightmare for a Trailblazers fan. All right, let's move on now to the final topic. All right, we're going to be moving on now to the NFL, which is going to be about Jimmy G and Trey Lance. We're going to talk about their situations. They got a game tonight against the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, so 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan, he insists that Jimmy G is the star for the 49ers, but Trey Lance, man, has he been balling out in camp? Trey Lance selected with number 3 overall pick. Great player in the 2021 NFL draft, so it'll only be a matter of time before he'll start an NFL game. It's created an awkward situation on paper. Jimmy G once took this team to a Super Bowl, or at least was a part of this team to the Super Bowl, depending on how you took my statement. However, with Trey Lance being cheaper and more talented, I'll even share whether he's better or not. It could be tempting for the 49ers to move Jimmy G via trade or even outright release him. For now, though, Jimmy G is the starting quarterback for the 49ers. With all that being said, this now leads me to ask this type of question. What should happen to Jimmy G and Trey Lance for the 2021 NFL season?
Honestly, I think it's pretty simple. Go Trey Lance. Week 1 even. I'm a big Trey Lance guy. I think he should have gone where he gone or where he went, but not behind Zach Wilson. I think Fields should have gone number 2. But Trey Lance and camp, every day it seems like at their mini camp, I just see videos of him throwing dots, throwing dimes. The team seems to absolutely love him. Kittle loves him. The wide receivers love him. And he fits this offense like a glove. Trey Lance is exactly what this team needs. He is a fighter pilot at quarterback. Jimmy G's a bus driver. No offense to Jimmy G, but I think it's kind of time they maybe keep him around, mentor him, move on from him. I've never been a big Jimmy G guy just because I don't think he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think he's a guy who could kind of get you there and ride the bus there in a slower offense. Trey Lance, can win the Super Bowl. I've been keeping track of the Dolphins and Bears game. It just ended. Fields finished with 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. We'll talk about that a little, maybe next week. But my point is, Fields was awesome and he deserves a starting spot. If Trey Lance is, awesome in preseason, no reason he shouldn't get the starting spot.
Now, I know that Kyle Shanahan, he's saying that Garoppolo's the star week 1. We'll see how long he'll hold that statement. You definitely got to go with Trey Lance. There's no question about it. Coaches always say a thing. You play your best guys, right? That's what you always heard no matter what sport you played, football, basketball, whatever, right? They always say they play the best guys available, right? Well, if that's the case, Trey Lance has to be the star week 1. And no offense to Jimmy Garoppolo, I actually like him. I'm actually a fan of him, all right? But when you compare him to Trey Lance, there's no question. Trey Lance is no offense to Garoppolo, but Trey Lance is a much better player than Jimmy Garoppolo will ever be, all right? And Trey Lance, when he came, he's going to be the Justin Herbert of last season. He's going to be the Justin Herbert of this season. When you look at this man, he's a lightning rod. He's a power man. He's got an incredible arm. His accuracy is underrated too. The throws that he keeps making, man, it's just unreal. It's stuff that you can't dream of. I've watched a good amount of 49ers games, too many to count. And there's certain plays where it's like, man, why couldn't Jimmy Garoppolo just roll out to the left, and just create a play, right? And even though I've been complimentary of Garoppolo, there's just some things that Trey Lance can do that Jimmy G just cannot do, all right? And Trey Lance, he can roll out to his left. He can roll out to his right. You can call quarterback power with him. You can call a read option with him. You can run all those motion plays. And remember, Trey Lance has a little bit of experience throwing to the tight end. Tight end's a big part of the Kyle Shanahan offense, which was supposedly a big strength of Garoppolo. It is a big strength of his, don't get me wrong. But when you look at Trey Lance, man, he's just so versatile, and he is everything that you look for in a modern-day quarterback. And even though he was taken with number 3 overall pick, I feel like it was kind of a little low for him. Not because that he should have gone number 2. I think Justin Fields should have been the second pick. But Trey Lance, he's definitely better than the Zach Wilson. If Zach Wilson is getting the job with no competition week 1, Trey Lance needs to be given his job. I mean, honestly, he's just on a different level than Jimmy Garoppolo. No offense to Jimmy G. I like him. I want him to do well. But when you look at Trey Lance, amazing player, and you think future Hall of Fame. When you think about Jimmy Garoppolo, I think of him as a good player. I think of him as a solid quarterback, who could be a part of a playoff team. And, if somebody like a Washington football team got Jimmy Garoppolo, they would be very happy with that. But this is the San Francisco 49ers we're talking about. We're talking about a team that could be the best in the NFC. And they got to start Trey Lance. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, you said it best when you said if Zach Wilson's given a job, then this is Trey Lance's job. I mean, something you can't teach a quarterback is poise, and that's my favorite word to use to describe Trey Lance, poise. No matter what stage he's on, he's ready for the spotlight, and he's ready for this NFL spotlight. He's ready to compete for San Francisco. And like I said earlier, the guys love him. And if you can get the guys to play for you, I mean, that's big plus.
Definitely. And you look at Jimmy G, one of the most likable players on the roster. All right? He's just a good dude. One of the main reasons why I'm continuing to stick out for Garoppolo when a lot of people are kicking him down when he's down is because he's a good leader, very good leader. Everybody backs Garoppolo. But when you look at Trey Lance, he has Garoppolo's leadership and he also has amazing ability. So when you combine those things, I mean, when you look at Lance versus Garoppolo, it's no competition. I mean, quite frankly, it's no competition. Trey Lance is obviously better than Jimmy Garoppolo. No disrespect to Garoppolo. I like him a lot, like I said. But when you look at Trey Lance, man, you think of him as a future MVP winner. With Jimmy Garoppolo, you just think of him as, okay, he's a guy, he could be an MVP player if you make everything perfect around him and no injuries, and if he just plays fearless. If you basically turn it into the 2017 Jimmy G version, okay, yeah, he's going to be a really good player. But even when Jimmy Garoppolo's at his best versus Trey Lance at his normal, Trey Lance is still better than him. Like, Trey Lance, he's just on a different level of good. It's just quite as frank with that. Okay, so we agree that Trey Lance should be the star week 1, right? We both agree about that,
We
right?
both agree. Yes.
Yep. All right, so what do you think they should do with Jimmy G? Should they release him? Should they trade him? Should they just keep him as the back? What should they do with him?
Do you have his contract details?
I do. Well, not exactly. I just know he has 2 years left and none of the money left is guaranteed.
I think you stick him around, keep Jimmy G around this year. Then you trade him in the offseason. He's going to help Trey Lance a lot. He's a likable guy, like you said. He's going to help Trey Lance out. He's going to be a team player. And then after this year, I think it's ready. You can send him off. He can, try and find a career somewhere else, maybe just back up somewhere. The Patriots would definitely have a spot for him because Bill Belichick seems to really like him. But I'd say keep him around this year.
I kind of disagree with you. I think if Trey Lance is a star week 1, you got to move on from Garoppolo. It's nothing against that kind of plan, but Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a starting caliber quarterback in this league. He doesn't deserve to be a backup. I mean, look, if you're a part of a team that took your team to a Super Bowl, you were clutch that year, you should be a starting quarterback somewhere. He definitely has some spots available for him. I mean, we know the Texans could certainly use a Jimmy Garoppolo on their team. He could keep them competitive. You could also send Garoppolo to the Washington football team. He could definitely take that team to a division title. Washington would be very happy to have a Jimmy Garoppolo on their team. And then you also look at the Saints. The Saints could also use a Garoppolo. Remember, Sean Payton was a big fan of Garoppolo. He went on First Take, and he was defending him like crazy. You would have thought that he was his own quarterback, the way that he was talking about him to Stephen A. Smith. But yeah, that's just some of the teams that will give out. He's a starting caliber quarterback in this league. The 49ers would be wise to give up something for Jimmy Garoppolo because if he sits down the whole year and then you trade him, his value is going to drop significantly. So I think it'd be best if they just moved on.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I just think it's better for your own future, for your quarterback's future, if you let him learn under a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, who's been in the Super Bowl, who's been behind Tom Brady for a few years. And, he's just a guy who's going to be a great locker room guy. Team's going to fall for. And honestly, I don't think his stock drops all that much if he just sat, back up this year, just because everyone knows what they're getting out of Jimmy G, a smart quarterback, someone who can run your offense and safe quarterback, smart quarterback.
But I mean, look at this way for Jim Garoppolo. I mean, yes, he'll be a good teammate and all that, but in his mind, he has to know that he's better than a backup. All right, we've seen some bad backup quarterbacks. This guy would be obviously an elite backup quarterback, but I mean, like when you look at him, like I mean, you're kind of a lame duck. I mean, at that point, if I'm Garoppolo's agent, Don Yee, at this point, I'm telling Garoppolo, you have to request a trade. It's best for your NFL career because his stock, like I said, it's going to drop a whole lot. And there'll be teams that will still want him. Look at New Orleans. Look at Denver. If their quarterback competition, because Garoppolo, in my opinion, is better than both Locke and Bridgewater. Then you also look at the Saints. He's also better than both Winston and Taysom Hill or whatever the heck is going on in there. So when I'm looking at it from that perspective, I think that they should be willing to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. But also, let me wrap this up with this point. Let's just say that Kyle Shanahan will be a hard head and just start Jimmy Garoppolo week 1. Okay. Do you think there's any chance he could rebound back and have a career year and be the player that a lot of people thought that he could once be?
No, just because his division has only gotten better. So even it was really strong then, I think it's only gotten stronger at this point. So it'll just be even harder for him to have a year like he did. I don't think this would be a career year for him if he started all the games, but I think he'd have a respectable season. I think he'd have a team that would make the playoffs.
Yeah, that would be solid. I think that there would be a chance for him to have a career year. I mean, look, this guy has a lightning quick release, and yes, I know the league is getting more mobile, but maybe, just maybe, Garoppolo will finally be like, you know what? I'm just going to play pissed off, and I'm just going to go back to 2017 Jimmy G mode. Now, I doubt that's going to happen. I think reality is he'll play well for a few games, and then he'll get himself injured, and you're just delaying the inevitable with Trey Lance. That's honestly what I think is going to happen if they just start Garoppolo week 1. I think it'd just be best if they start Lance week 1 and just go from there. I just think that it'd be the smarter decision to go.
Yeah, if you start Lance from week 1, you're setting him up for success to me because he's ready for that spotlight.
Yeah. They will be a better team right away with Trey Lance. I'm not typically a guy who just wants to give jobs to rookies. I'm always advocating for rookies to earn it, but Trey Lance to me has earned it, or at least he has the potential to earn it. I mean, just look at him in practice and just look at the game film don't lie. Look, when you look at Trey Lance, he's just a much better player than Jimmy Garoppolo will ever be. That's not an offense. Like if you put Trey Lance versus a guy that's just a solid starter, right? Like a Jared Goff, you would start Trey Lance ahead of Jared Goff. It's really just common sense at this point. If you put Trey Lance against a guy like Derek Carr, Trey Lance would win the job. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Lance, I mean, he's a lot more talented quarterback than your average rookie quarterback. He has all the talent. He's ready for the spotlight. He probably needs to learn the system since this is a very tough system to learn. But I mean, from what it looks like, he's catching on quick, and he's ready to take this over. I just think Shanahan's not a guy who's ready to hand his offense over to a rookie, even though this rookie deserves it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And yeah, I know it's a tough system. I've seen it. It's a tough system to decipher. It's one of the toughest systems in the NFL. But hey, let's not disrespect Trey Lance's high IQ. He has a high IQ too. Don't get me wrong. Jimmy Garoppolo's high IQ is excellent, but Trey Lance is just right there with him. It's one of the more advanced minds that I've seen compared to today's usual rookies. All right, so that basically wraps up the Jimmy Garoppolo Trey Lance topic. So thank you for watching episode 8 of Combo Sports Talk. I really hope that you guys enjoyed the topics since they were spread out well. We talked about everything that you guys could have imagined. Let us know down in the comment section below on what you guys thought about this podcast that was done. Remember to go follow our Instagram and Twitter. Our Instagram is @combo.sports.talk. Our Twitter is @combosportstalk. Also, feel free to ask us questions whenever and wherever. We will try to answer them. Next episode, we plan to preview. Well, not preview, but next episode we plan to basically wrap up summer league, whatever's happening in the NBA, and then we're going to also be talking about quarterback competitions. We're just going to be talking about football flat out. All right, so we're just going to be making predictions on that. We might even send out some of our picks next episode whenever we do it. That depends on the time. Shawn, good episode we just pulled off together.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. Like you said, we spaced it out, and these were very interesting topics. I mean, love talking about them. You definitely got to hear about what we thought about the Ohio State quarterback competition because I love talking college football, especially when you have a guy like Quinn Ewers, when you have a guy like Trey Lance in this quarterback competition in the NFL. Super fun to talk that. Hopefully, it's fun for you guys to listen. And I think we have a little more to talk about kind of what's coming for you guys.
Yeah, because you couldn't have put it perfectly. And before we end this off, let's tell the audience what we'll be doing moving forward. I'm not saying that this podcast is going to be shut down. It's obviously not, but we both have stuff coming on with college coming up. All right, so Shawn, you're going to be at WCU. You're going to be what? What are you going to be exactly?
So I am going to be a freshman this fall at Western Carolina University. Like you said, I have all this stuff behind me. It's kind of blurred out, but it's kind of a mess. Getting ready to move in this Monday. Really excited. And I am starting there as an assistant recruiter for the football team. Super excited about that. Gonna get some great connections. The new head coach of Western Carolina is from Valdosta State, Division II football program that won national championship. He's coming. He's bringing his quarterback. Going to be a really fun year. But I still think we're gonna have a lot of. I think I'm gonna have some time to still run this, but you also have something coming up, and let's let you tell them what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm going to be going to a Division II college, obviously not as prestigious as Shawn's college that he's going to. I'm going to Wingate. I'm also going to be, well, I mean, it's not technically official, but it basically is. I mean, I'm going to be working as a student manager at Wingate. I'll be dealing with the equipment, stuff like that. I'm also going to potentially be involved in game plans potentially down the road. We'll see what happens. I mean, they got a really good program in there. I mean, they're one of the most underrated Division II football programs. That's not me being biased. Just look at the head coach. He's the brother of NFL head coach Frank Reich, so that means he knows a thing or two that other college coaches can't necessarily give. So it's going to be an interesting experience that will be going on.
Oh yeah, you've got a big opportunity with a big time coach, and from a unbiased person, Wingate is definitely an underrated Division II program. They're a pretty good program. You look at their very recent history, and they've been good. We've also got a friend that's a wide receiver on the team. So yeah, we're definitely excited for what's moving forward. But we're gonna do our very best to get these episodes pumping out for you.
Yeah, definitely. So, again, thanks for watching this podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed what we heard at the little bit at the end. I hope you guys understand what's going on. This has been a great show to produce. I hope you guys feel the same way about that. You guys have done a great job subscribing. Like I said, we'll be back here next episode, talk about NFL, college football season, whatever's happening in the NBA that's coming up potentially. And we'll even expand what we're doing in our own futures, depending on what's going to be happening and stuff like that. As always, there will always be new topics to present to you guys. I have nothing else to say now. Peace out.